Hey there, Steve here. Hope you're doing well. Have you ever wanted to learn math rock finger tapping so you can start writing your own riffs like this? Or perhaps like this. But you have no idea where to start. Well, that was me. While most of my guitar friends were learning to play their favourite rock solos, I was struggling trying to learn my favourite math rock songs. But after more than a decade of frustrating trial and error, obsessing over my favourite math rock finger tapping riffs, I still can't tap. Just joking. But what I have done is take all of that experience, I've put it together in a step-by-step roadmap that you can follow, shortcutting years of wasted time and effort. So in this video, you'll discover exactly what you need to focus on so you can learn math rock finger tapping style 10 times faster than I did. I've also put together all of the exercise in a download for Patreon supporters, and you can find that in the link below. And if you're looking to get your hands on more exercises like the ones you'll see in this video, then be sure to check out my math rock finger tapping fundamentals course. There's a link below for that. To start, let me show you an exercise I like to use to get guitarists performing the technique correctly, avoiding the risk of developing bad tapping habits from the start. I'm in standard tuning, and first let's look at where your hand should be. For your fretting hand, this should be positioned how you usually just play the guitar, aiming to keep your thumb on the back side of the neck. And just make sure your elbow's not sticking out at an awkward angle like this. You want to keep it quite tucked in. And here's an exercise to get comfortable with tapping with this hand. With your thumb on the back of the neck, I want you to fret this A major bar chord shape. And we're going to use these fingers you have on each fret here to tap. And we're going to do this in a group of 5. Starting with your index finger. Then we're going to skip over to your little finger. Then in between with your ring finger. And then come back to the index finger. And then lastly tap this fret here with your middle finger. And it's going to sound like this. And what I like to do to remember this one is I like to say, would you like some tea? To remember that cycle of 5. Would you like some tea? Would you like some tea? Would you like some tea? But how do you make it sound clean? Well, it's actually quite easy. All you need to do is use the underside of your index finger here as a mute to lightly touch the string at all times, even when we're tapping this first note. I've got my finger muting these strings here. And I'll do the same as I tap the other notes. You can see that my index finger is just laying across the strings here. Right, now you know what to do with this hand, let's introduce our other hand into the land of tapping. This hand tends to feel a little bit awkward at first because it hasn't really spent that much time on the fretboard. And what I like to do is anchor my thumb on the top side of the fretboard if I'm not using a pick like now, and that's going to give me a bit of stability. And I like to get my hand in the same direction as the fretboard for tapping here. Not like this, because then you're putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on your wrist here, versus when you bring it around and try and keep it in line with the fretboard. And from here, we're going to tap that same major bar chord shape, but this time we're just going to use 3 of our fingers. You can use your little finger if you like. I just find that I tend to use my index, middle and ring here because they're a bit stronger. We're going to play this starting from the 10th fret with your index finger, and then we're going to follow that same string skipping pattern again. And what I like to do to help me remember the 5 notes here, I'm going to reply to that, would you like some tea, with yes, I would love some. 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 And then you can put the 2 together. Would you like some tea? Yes, I would love some. And for muting, all you need to do is to go back to our old friend, Mr. Index Finger here, lay it across the strings. And then that's going to completely mute those for you. And here's how that exercise sounds all together. Alright, so now you're getting comfortable with performing the tapping technique. Let's move into exercises to develop your finger strength and dexterity. And it's exercises like the ones I'm about to show you that have helped Samuel here fix weak and inconsistent tapping and finally helped him to be able to write their own riffs by taking my math rock finger tapping course. A cheeky plug for you there, and you can check that out below. Right, so this first exercise mimics how guitarists, when they write tapping riffs, how they would approach writing a single note tapping part. Usually the right hand's going to play some kind of repeating phrase and the fretting hand will move around, usually outlining some kind of harmony movement. So starting with your fretting hand, I want you to tap these 4 chords: a G major 7, an A minor 7, then a C major 7, then lastly a B minor 7. But I want you to tap these notes in order as single notes. So lay your index across there to mute, and then we're going to go to the A and repeat the same pattern. Then down to the C, then to the B. And now our other hand is going to play this repeating phrase on the 12th fret here, and all you're going to do is tap the notes of this G major chord here, and you're outlining a G major triad. And what you're going to do is put this in between each chord. So for example, you'll play your G major 7 followed by this second part here. And here's a demonstration of the entire exercise. For this next exercise, we're going to practice 2-string tapping at the same time, and you'll hear this broken up chord, choppy tapping approach used all the time in math rock. To make things easier, we're going to keep the same progression from the previous exercise, but this time we're just going to tap 2 of these notes from the chord. For our G chord, we're going to tap these notes. For our A chord, C chord, and then the B chord. And for your other hand, you simply tap these 2 notes. And for each chord, you're going to tap this choppy rhythm. And here's an example of how this sounds played at a faster speed. Moving on to our next exercise, this one ups the ante, and we're going to add some quick hammer and pull off arpeggios that you'll see and hear used all the time by math rock bands. We're going to stick with the same progression, but a few things are different here. Every bar will start with this quick arpeggio trill, then to the A, the C, and the B minor. And that's the first part of each of the phrase. Then after that, it's quite straightforward. We're going to just tap this rhythm. And what we're doing is, with this hand, we're going to be playing these 2 notes all the time. And with this hand here, if you see it as just playing these 3 notes of the arpeggio, it makes things much easier. So when you put the 2 parts together, and then you're just going to repeat the same thing when you come up to the A, but here instead. C, And here's how that sounds up to speed. By the way, if you want more exercises just like these to develop your tapping technique and learn the common approaches to tapping in math rock, then be sure to check out my Math Rock Tapping Fundamentals course. It's the course I wish I had all those years ago because it would have saved me a ton of time and that frustrating effort. So check out the link in the description to learn more. Thanks. In this final segment, I want to show you some awesome finger tapping riffs to learn so you can learn some of the best common tapping approaches often used by math rock guitarists. I've included all the tabs for the riffs you're about to see and loads more in that download which you can find below. Alright, so for our first riff, it's a fun tapping riff from a bridge section of a song called Nature Kids by the band Golfer. And it's great for learning how to create these impactful moving harmony parts in your tapping. We're in drop D for this one. And let me walk you through how to play it. There are two parts to this riff that we're going to learn. I'm going to play them at a slow speed, and what I like to do is chunk section by section. I find this is a great way to learn something new, and I also do everything at a slower speed at first, and then I'll loop sections and I'll gradually get them up to full speed. So that's the application I would like you to follow for this section. So for this first part of the riff, it sounds like this. And all this hand is doing here, the tapping is outlining that for this hand, and this hand's going to do the little hammer on and pull off arpeggio. So for that first part, you've got this, like the riff that we practiced in the exercise. You've got that quick triplet hammer on and pull off. And then this bit's relatively simple. So 7, 7, 7, 7, tap the 9th, slide up to the 11th. And then go down to that 5th fret. And then that brings us into the next part of this song. And it mimics that arpeggio idea that we learned for exercise 3 in the previous section. And here's how this part sounds, and I'll break it down quickly. And you can see here, we're just moving this hand with the harmony. I really love this kind of tapping approach. And this hand is basically outlining a D major chord. And again, we've got that quick triplet tap. So if you see it as two parts of the phrase, you've got this first part, and then you've got the second tapping part. So 5, 5, 7, 5, 7. And then put them together. And then this hand's going to be doing the same thing, and all we're going to be doing is moving up to the 2 here, then to the 4. And again, all this hand's doing is tapping these string skip notes. Repeat the same thing, and then the same on the 4th as well. And then you're back to the start there. And here's how that sounds all together. So moving on to our next addictive finger tapping riff, we have the intro to the song 21 Letters by Delta Sleep, and it's fantastic for learning how to tap chords with quick little arpeggios inserted in between. And you'll hear this approach used all of the time. We're in standard tuning for this one, but we do have a capo on the 2nd fret here, just to be sure to retune after you put the capo on to make sure things are not a bit sharp. At the start of this riff, we've got this little nice tapped rhythm there. And again, I'd like you to take this one slowly. And then we introduce our first chord, and the whole piece revolves around this major chord here, your A major in this case, and we're going to what's this going to be? A D major chord for the other one. And we're going to tap those ones as well using your middle, index and ring finger. And then luckily for our D chord here, you can just use the same fingers again. In between each of these chords, we're going to have a tapped arpeggio that's making use of a finger from this hand and then using our other hand to play the other part of the arpeggio. And then that's basically going to be that repeating rhythm. So once you've got it down, it's actually quite quickly to fill in the gaps with all of the other bars as well. And now let's take a look at this other chord. And this one's slightly more tricky, but the same process as the first chord. We're going to tap the chord, and then we're going to do a little arpeggio between. Again, incorporating the ring finger from this one. And then we're going to put another one in between. And then again, to round off this riff, we're going to have that 2 notes tapped at the same time again with a string skip in between. So even though the chord's different and the arpeggio is different, the rhythm is exactly the same as the first chord here. And then there's a little different part coming up, and we've got that choppy, dissonant outlining a chord, left to right. And that's going to be pretty much the same kind of application here. So you're going to move from here to here and simply go. So here's how it sounds going into that section. And the only other part we need to look at is these last 2 bars where we're going to play this chord. And now we're going to have a slight change. We're going to hammer on down here instead. Down to the D string and then hold this chord. And then lastly, some natural harmonics on the 5th fret there. And here's how this idea sounds all the way through, so you got a better idea of what you're aiming for. Alright, so for our next riff, it's something that's a bit more dissonant and tricky to play, but it's one of the most fun tapping riffs that you'll ever learn. It's the intro to the song 40 Rods to the Hog's Head by Terra Melos. So for this one, we kind of take the opposite approach of not really having our harmony move, and our hand here, our right hand actually, is going to be doing a bit more movement. And this riff is not that tricky at slow speed. It's when you speed it up, it becomes really tricky to play. And again, like anything, like I suggested, let's just take this phrase by phrase and then we'll build up the speed over time. And this hand here is just going to be doing this octave for most of the time, this A octave. And then this hand's going to be moving the melody like that. And then we have this tapped triplet rhythm of. And make sure that you're going backwards like that. I find that's much easier, but the riff is quite tricky because it's actually the opposite way around. And as you tap in between each one of these, you're going to move the melody here from 11, then up to 11, and then down to the 9. It's so much fun to play. And then we're going to have another 9 here. And then a little bit different here. going up this major scale kind of sound. And that completes the regular tapping phrases. Then, but in between each one of these rapid fire tapping parts, we're going to have these kind of breaks, which are quite easy to learn. So I'll leave those bits to you. The only part I'd like to highlight is that there are some sort of changes as we go along. In the third cycle of this, we shorten it like that. And at the end here, we have this quite fast, and again here, quite fast arpeggio tapping part. When you speed it up like that. And then you've got this, another string skipping approach, as you see here. I do like the sound of that, really tense, mysterious chord that's tapped there. And again, string skipping there. We're just seeing this all the time in all of these riffs. And here's how that riff sounds all the way through. Alright, so now you have the tools to learn math rock much faster than I did. There's still lots to learn about math rock. So watch this video next where I'll show you how to learn math rock guitar step by step.